Hello everyone, let's continue with Kuntaka Vakrokti-jivitam. Students, we have discussed so far that the theory of Vakrokti developed in the works of various Sanskrit scholars like Bhama, Dandin, Vaman, Bhoj, Rudrat and finally Kuntak. And we have also discussed the first theoretician to give a prominent place to Vakrokti in literary discourse is Bhama. In his treatise Kavilamkara, he mentions Vakrokti in various contexts. And the greatest exponent of Vakrokti Siddhanta happens to be Kuntak. Vakrokti became the prime aesthetic principle in the hands of Kuntak, who treated it with rare depth and extensiveness. As you have seen in my previous video that we have discussed that how Kuntak clearly states that his objective in writing a treatise on poetics is to establish the idea of strikingness which causes extraordinary charm in poetry. Vakrokti for Kuntak is synonymous with principles of beauty underlying all kinds of poetic language. Students, according to Kuntak, Vakrokti is the life and breath of poetry. It is the soul of poetry. He says Vakrokti-jivitam-3. So with this plan, with this idea, he just explained this theory of Vakrokti in his treatise Vakrokti-jivitam, and he has classified Vakrokti into 6 types. Today we will discuss in detail the first type of Vakrokti, that is Varna-Vinyasa-Vaktrata. It is called Phonetic Obliquity. It deals with the repetition of phonemes. This kind of obliquity, we can say, it includes all the possible arrangements in arrangement of phonemes in poetry. And it is defined as the arrangement of the free and irregular repetition of similar or identical varnas. Varnas are the phonemes, the smallest unit of sound. And this repetition can be at varying intervals in a verse. And this arrangement or this repetition of varnas gives a special texture, gives a special beauty to the poetic expression. Students, Varna-Vinyasa-Vaktrata encompasses alliteration, rhyme and other subtle sound effects. And you are all familiar that in alliteration there is repetition of consonantal sounds, and this alliteration, this repetition of consonantal sound is actually the Varna-Vinyasa-Vaktrata. For example, here is an extract from Hopkins' famous poem The Windhover. I caught this morning, morning's minion, kingdom of delights, dauphin, dapple, dawn, drawn. Here, you can observe how the repetitions of ma and da sounds provide a kind of special charm to this poetic piece. Then one more example from Coleridge's poem The Ancient Mariner. Here, the fair breeze blew, the white foam flew, the furrow followed free. So, in these lines, that we can see that how the repetition of fa sound gives a sense of speed. It suggests a quick movement, and so it enhances the charm and beauty of this verse. There are a number of examples. You must have read T.S. Eliot's famous poem Wasteland. There also this repetition happens, that the London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. One more famous example is from Keats' Ode to Nightingale, that the use of alliteration, the beaded bubbles winking at the brim, the repetition of b sound. So this ornamentation poetry or the repetition of consonantal sounds is said to be both the obliqueness in speech, and we can also say that it is the masterly way of speaking on the part of the poet. So and now the question arises that why Kuntak has given importance to this repetition of varnas. Actually, he was concerned about the Kavya Kaushal, the kavya karma, that how a poet's compositional skill, a poet's imaginative skill works in order to create a special sort of language for poetry. Kuntak has explained about two kinds of Varna-Vinyasa-Vaktrata. In the first kind of arrangement, he talks about the free and irregular repetition of similar or identical varnas or phonemes at regular intervals to enhance the poetic expression, and he further divides this irregular or free repetition of varnas into three sub-varieties. The first one is the repetition of one varna, then there is repetition of two varnas, then there is repetition of more than two varnas. And in the second kind of Varna-Vinyasa-Vaktrata, Kuntak talks about the again three sub-varieties or the three sub-kinds, that the Varna-Vinyasa-Vaktrata happens when the stops are combined with their homoorganic nasals. Now the point is, what is homoorganic nasals? You must have read in the phonetics that the homoorganic nasals are those consonantal sounds which have the same place of articulation. So the consonantal sounds with the same place of articulation are included in the repetition of varnas. Then secondly, he talks about liquid consonants, the doubling, the repetition of liquid consonants. So now what is liquid consonant? A liquid consonant is the consonantal sound when we just pronounce that very sound, the tongue produces a partial closure in mouth, and that results in a resonant vowel sound. For example, la and ra. These are the liquid consonants. And thirdly, he talks about that when consonants become conjunct with ra, for example, frame, from, the fa consonant is combined with the ra sound, the weak ra sound. So these are the consonantal conjuncts. So in this way, Kuntak has explained two kinds of Varna-Vinyasa-Vaktrata in his theory of Vakrokti. And here Kuntak has also given suggestions, or he has also explained the limitations, that how this arrangement of varnas or this repetition of varnas should be taken care of, how the varnas should be arranged. So the very first thing which he makes clear, that this arrangement of varnas should be in consonance with the feelings conveyed. So here in this way, Kuntak actually assigns a very important role to the poet's skill, that is Kavya Kaushal, that is Kavya Vaidhigya and poetic genius in the poetic creation. Because he believes that Vakrokti emanates from the creative faculty of the poet, and the poet's pratibha, his genius, is an inborn faculty or instinct. So it is the poet's duty to use that very repetition of varnas in consonance, the feeling which he wants to convey through that very piece of verse. And here I would like to make clear one more thing, that Kuntak emphasized the repetition of varnas, but he also made it clear that the syllables, the phonemes or the consonantal sounds which are being used, they should not be harsh, they should be soft ones. And secondly, the piece of poetry, the piece of verse should not be tarnished by unattractive varnas. Then he just wants to make that repetition, that expression lucid. On the whole, Kuntak has just assigned, I'll just repeat that Kuntak is just assigning a very important role to the poet's skill at every step. And here I would just like to make one more thing clear to you, that Kuntak compares the poet with a painter and the composition of poetry to that of painting a picture. So just as a painter paints a picture using a charming canvas, different colors, tones of different shades, similarly a poet uses different means like rhetoric, figures of speech and style to create poetry. So how efficiently, how skillfully he arranges these things to make a beautiful piece, that is his kaushal, that is his skill. So in this way, Kuntak has explained Varna-Vinyasa-Vaktrata in his Vakrokti-jivitam, and by setting the limits, by explaining the rules to follow the Varna-Vinyasa-Vaktrata, that Kuntak has made it clear that poet's pratibha is just like that philosopher's stone of our stories. Students, you must have heard about that philosopher's stone which turns iron into gold by its magical touch. So for Kuntak, poet's pratibha is a kind of philosopher's stone which turns the iron of ordinary language into the gold of poetic expression. And it can happen only if the poet just arranges the repetition of varnas very skillfully, in consonance with the content, and also following the rules of lucidity and spontaneity. So that's all about the Varna-Vinyasa-Vaktrata. In our next session, we will talk about second category of Vakrokti, that is Pad Pravardha Vakrata. Thank you.